Hello. I know, I've been gone for a minute. I'm trying my best to try to do every Wednesday, but it might change to every other Wednesday, but it's when my brain will let me. Sorry if you hear any laughing in the background. My brother's playing his video games in his room, and his room's right next to mine. So, if you hear laughing or words, don't know if you can hear it, but yeah. So, without further ado, yeah, let's get on with Chapter 2. Chapter 2 of Seen Not Heard, read by ADHD_God by LitaCakes. LitaCakes. Okay. Chapter 2. Chapter 2, Bruises That Build Us. This is a chapter long too, but trigger warnings, neglect, mentions of sometimes mentions of blood and injury, but nothing major. Okay. Now, Chapter 2, The Bruises That Build Us. A year has passed since he started training Izuku. A year has passed since he's starting training, and Izuku was, perhaps for his first time in years, happy. At least he was happy when he was at the gym. He lied about his quirk. The lie about his quirk was easily believed. His teachers at the gym even complimented his quirk regularly when he learned stuff super fast. The hardest part was trying to get around his inability to speak. Izuku has tried. In the dark of his bedroom at night, he tries to whisper to himself, but the scar on his face has apparently done something to his mouth or tongue. It was really hard to form certain words. So when he started at the gym, he told them he was mute as a side effect to his quirk of his IQ by offering a note. It wasn't uncommon for IQ quirks to come with a side effect, so the staff bought that again. After a few visits, they gave him a cute badge that says, "Hi, my name is Izuku Anaka. I'm very friendly, but I'm mute, and I may need time to write down my thoughts." Izuku thought it was a sweet gesture. He wore it every time, wherever he was. Whenever he was there, most people left him alone when he was training, but some approached him asking for guidance on their own skills to improve on moves they wanted to try. It was weird to Izuku that people would come ask for him for help. After all, he was a worthless idiot here. But it sure made him smile each time. A couple weeks in, Izuku met a girl at the gym who was weightlifting. She stopped her workouts at the machine right up next to him. She had brought a pink dreadlock in her. She had a bright pink dreadlock in her eyes that could zoom like a camera lens. Izuku immediately transfixated by her quirk. Quirks had always fascinated Izuku, and sometimes he'd wonder if that's why the universe never gave him one. Maybe it'd make him biased if he had one. He's like his over others. But without one, Izuku loved all quirks. He had notebooks upon notebooks piled up at home, analyzing them. His parents had stopped buying him notebooks in the last year, or since their attitude got harsher. But he still keeps notes on his school tablet. The girl's name was Mei Hatsume. She told him to call her May. May. She was weight training in order to pick up heavy metals and weighty machinery. Since she was an inventor, Izuku sparked up at this as well. She made support gear. Izuku could really use something like that. Maybe he could pay her if he got a job so he could have support gear. Then they met 3 times a week at the gym. They started weight training with each other. Izuku started spending long hours in the gym. Inko was told he needed more lessons in other subjects. She was not against free schooling that would keep his germs out of her house for longer periods of times. 4 days out of the week, he didn't come home until at least 8 in the evening. It was heaven to be away from his apartment, to be with people who actually treated him like a human. Of course, of the 6 months, he had managed to pick up some odd jobs. Despite being only 9 years old, old ladies need help carrying groceries. Stores need sweeping. It worked out. They actually liked how quiet he was and polite. He worked without complaint. With the money he brought, he threw away. He bought himself a throwaway phone and a cheap laptop. He was able to give May his contact information and kept in touch outside of the gym after. He gave her his constant ideas for invention and May let him test them sometimes in the gym parking lot before they went to train. Now, a year later, Izuku was top of his class in self-defense. He even picked up parkour training classes, where he was also proficient in. After quite a lot of fumbling and bruises in the beginning, May made no less than 15 invention ideas, and 4 of those were his to keep. They stashed them away in a little box he found in the trash and washed up. They stuck the box in his closet, buried behind loose board in the wall. Izuku had also spent the past few months teaching himself JSL so he could communicate better with those around him. Even though it wasn't uncommon for non-mute people or deaf people to know the language, May used it enough to get by. They even practiced together, which helped greatly. Their communications went from paper and emails to full-blown conversations through sign language, or May talking and Izuku signing, where they both were much happier with the transition. At this point, Izuku hadn't spoken a single word in over a year. In that year, Inko never stopped to ask to put a muzzle back on. She probably assumed the damage from the burn had made him mute, which wasn't actually that far from the truth. His home life had quickly died down without a drunken Hazashi coming home each night and beating his views on the quirkless people into Izuku's skull. Inko ignored him and acted like he didn't exist. There were the same rules he had to follow, and he did so without question or complaint because it meant he would have to be left alone. It meant he'd be left alone. Even if he felt lonely, Inko would rather pretend he didn't exist while look at them exist than lock him in the muzzle every night. Late at night, he'd spend hours poring over his laptop, working on his analyzation skills and minor hacking skills. May had taught him a few things, but the rest he picked up online from slightly shady and yet likely illegal websites. His grades in school improved, but only because he was faking it for the Inko's benefits. He could easily get straight A's if he wanted to, but instead he settles for middle B's, where better than his lowest B and C's before the year, which had only started because his teachers accused him of cheating. After all, a worthless idiot possibly couldn't get a perfect score. He made sure he wasn't as smart as the rest. He presented as he wasn't as smart as the rest of this class. Instead, he was to do his work. But for his grade, he got off. Even if the work took him all but 5 minutes to accomplish. Since school didn't challenge him, he took classes online he found for free or really cheap. Online tutors were easy to find, had reasonable result rates. Too, he matched them on nights where he didn't stay long at the gym, or have online meetings for the meetings. He'd go to the library and come home with his usual time, with stacks of book or paper that Inko had approved of. Elementary school was quickly... Whoops! I clicked the space bar. Was quickly turning the corner. At 10, he only had 2 left until he reached middle school. Then, the only 3 years he had until high school. Maybe he could get into UA and keep his IQ quirk in act, but that was why he practiced his hacking skills. So when he was working hard to train them, he would have an option, even if Izuku didn't feel like he could become a hero anymore. Not being mute, not being quirkless, he didn't deserve it. He was far too worthless, but maybe if he could get into UA and at least get into the business course, become a quirk analyst. That would be amazing, a dream come true. At 10, he started working on anything he could to help heroes and the world around himself. He started gathering analyzed data and making files on every criminal or villain that the heroes were trying to capture. He sent files to every hero agency he could. Basically, none of them opened his emails or took him seriously. Perhaps the part of him because he always signed his name was Koisha, meant soundless. Koisha. It meant soundless, and Izuku felt like it was that monarch fit him pretty well. One did. Just one. Eraserhead. He always looked at everything Izuku sent him. Seriously, though he was asked how Izuku even got this information, Izuku once told him that he's done well observation skills, data online minings, but Eraserhead didn't seem satisfied with that answer, even though it was the truth. Besides that, Eraserhead still used everything Izuku sent him. He made multiple arrests and the hero world was put in an uproar about it. Izuku had asked his new favorite hero not to tell anybody it was him. Eraserhead. Why don't you Eraserhead, why don't you want them to know? Kirishi, also known as Izuku. Kirishi is Izuku. Okay. I tried with all of them, every agency I could find and contact information for. But you're the only one who took me seriously, so I want to work with you now. Eraserhead. No one ever looked at your files. This work is incredible. Are you new to the analyzation scene? Most procure analysts hire analysts for firms, so they ignore freelancers. But in Underground Hero, we take anything we'll get. We need all the help we can afford. Koichi. I am new, yeah. Eraserhead. Well, I'm glad you're on my side, Koichi. What does that mean, Eraserhead. Your analyzation skills could be used to bring down the Hero Society. Your analyzation skills could use to bring down the Hero Society. You're that good. If I didn't know that your conversations by the point, I'd probably be worried. Izuku had never been told by anyone that he was good at something that required intelligence. Sure, he was complimented at the gym for his physical power and quick learning, but it didn't have the same ring in his reign as, you're so smart, you could take down the Hero Society. That was a huge compliment. Izuku had no idea what to do with it. Instead of answering the compliment, he sent Eraserhead the next file and put his laptop into a secret compartment in his backpack. He took out his phone and texted May. Green bean. May! Oh my god, May. Panic emoji. Metal Mama. What's happening? Why are we panicking? Green bean. Eraserhead just complimented me, and he said I could bring down Hero Society with my analyzation work. Metal Mama. Wow. That's high praise. And also a little worrisome. You should be making a contained cage for your brain. Containment cage for your brain. Green bean. Laughing emoji. May, no. You know I want nothing more than to work with heroes. If they let me. So far, only Eraserhead has taken me seriously. Metal Mama. Hey, don't be like that. You're just We're just still kids. We're not even in middle school yet. We've got a long ways before you can legally work anyways. Don't shoot yourself in the foot yet. Green bean. Yeah, you're right. Training, same date, same time tomorrow. Metal mama. Of course, I have a couple new babies for you to test in the parking lot this time. I made a metal basketball bat for you. You want the metal basketball bat you wanted. It's my favorite baby so far. Green bean. Awesome. I'll be right there right after school. Metal mama. See you then. When Izuku arrived after school the next day, May was already waiting for him in the very back of the parking lot, where they always met for testing. The staff of the gym had told them it was fine as long as they didn't make too much noise or play with anything illegal. Izuku waved to May, who waved back and tugged their duffel bag over them to see random bits and experiments she was working on. Izuku was never wanting to stick his hand into that duffel bag. He'd likely lose an appendage to whatever was lurking inside. Izuku had told her real name a couple months ago. Once she had earned her trust. She had earned his trust. Here, try this one out. She yanked a baseball bat from her bag and offered it to Izuku. The tool was mostly dark green, of course, with silver accents and metal undercoat with a green paint. It looked like a normal bat, except Izuku knew better to assume anything from May had less than 60% chance of exploding or maiming a person. He gave her a serious look and took the bat from her. With one hand, he sighed. What's the catch? He always asked this with her new inventions. It was a trick, but what could this device do that a normal insert name of object couldn't do? May burst into laughter at the moment and mentioned a few buttons on the handle. Okay, so if you push this button twice, it will electrocute the end. Izuku blinked, taking a step back and holding the bat at arm's length. Don't worry, it only reaches to your fingertips print. Reacts to your fingerprint. So even I can't activate it. Wait, when did you get... Never mind. What else? May giggles. So she points to the next button. Click this one 3 times and spikes will protrude out the end. You can click either button 3 times in a second to deactivate them. Also, if you hold your pawn at the very bottom of the handle, it will collect the whole thing into a pocket-sized disc. Try it. Izuku was astonished that she could manage to make something like this in her home workshop. Collapsible materials like that weren't easy to come by, especially not ones that you could hold wriggly enough. Wriggly enough to make it a sturdy bat like this. He suggested he shrugged and did as directed, pressing his palms on the bottom of the bat's handle. Sure enough, after 3 seconds, the whole thing collapsed and made a disc, standing right into the palm of his hands. Whoa! Izuku turned a few times and arced about May. How did How did he get back into a bat? Back to me. Oh, right. Tap either side twice quickly in quick succession, and it should pop back out. Be careful of your pretty face in the way. Don't get your pretty face in the way, Izuku snorted, turning back to the bat. Turning back into the bat. He held it arm's length and tapped quickly twice on the top, and it popped back out rapidly. The bat clanged to the ground. Izuku cowered from the surprise of the noise. You'll get a hang of it, May promised, picking it back up and offering it back. So it really only responds to me? He sighed. He signed. Yep. She shoved it. Yep. She shoved it. She showed him by clicking a few buttons, trying to collapse it. Nothing worked. How had she tested it? Maybe fingerprints was the last step she did and the functions were tested? Izuku was pretty sure he's never used a regular bat, and certain not a pod or strike button. He wasn't actually wanting to hurt somebody, he just wanted to be able to protect himself and maybe the other people around him. Of course, there was plenty of other weapons he could learn, but a baseball bat was perfectly legal, and he couldn't get in trouble for using it as self-defense. May had also made it fairly inconspicuous, not noticeable, that he thought it would be. So made things a lot easier. He wanted to learn guidance, even if it might take some convincing for making something illegal. Of course, he could use tranquilizer guns. He wouldn't be putting May at risk for any arrest. Those weren't necessary. Legal. But they weren't illegal. They were illegal either. Trank guns were usually left to police. So citizens couldn't buy them without the right licensing. And hell, it cost a lot of money which Izuku didn't have. Hey, May. Izuku tapped on her shoulder and signed to get her attention. What's up? Could you make me a tranquilizer gun? Like, a fairly legal one. May stuck her lower lip into her mouth and pulled out one of her notebooks from her duffel. Izuku knew that meant she would be lost in an invention for at least the next 10 minutes. The answer was probably yes, she could make one. May never dove into her notebook if she thinks she couldn't make something on the spot like that work efficiently. He was right. At the end, about 8 minutes, May handed Izuku her notebook, and to expect what she'd drawn. Detailed things of exactly what he wanted: a simple trank gun, which was pocket-sized, actually multiplied darts, which could incapacitate people in various ways. She included few poison ideas, which Izuku didn't think about. Maybe I could have that done in a few weeks. I finish up the babies I'm working on. How's that? Sounds good. Why don't you don't know why I'm asking for weapons? Izuku blushed a little, looking down at his feet in Nope, don't care. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I just like making cool stuff, and you use it, and advise it when you go off the ground and jump off rooftops. Okay? Izuku stuttered, stumbled. Not like he'd ever done that before, but how did she know what sort of plans he had for real patrol work? Though, maybe it wasn't so hard to believe. He was getting pretty bored at the gym at this point. Parkour courses didn't even offer him a challenge anymore, and the self-defense classes have been upgraded to martial arts courses for the last 6 months. He had made most of his life way up springing up as sensei to himself. They all said it was his IQ quirk, but Izuku just worked really hard. He never gave a single moment to waste his life. He practiced relentlessly. He had to, of course, because if he didn't have the advantage of a quirk, he had to work twice as hard, or three times as hard as everybody to be valued on their level. He knew that. Earth to Izuku, May waving her hand in front of him. Izuku yelped, almost dropping the baseball bat on his hands. Sorry, lost in thought. It's okay, I just thought you've gone to another planet for a minute there. Come on, let's go back to training. May skipped towards the gym without even waiting for a response. Izuku smiled behind his mask. May was his only friend, his best friend. He was more happy than he'd ever been graced with that. He felt bad that he'd been lying about his quirk. And he knew she wouldn't want to be a friend with him if he revealed the truth, but maybe he could be happy for just the way he was. And no worries, the lie he told her, and not worry about the lies he's told to get here. First few times, Izuku did go jumping from rooftop to rooftop. From rooftops, as May put it. He earned more than a few business and just cut hard concrete bricks. He had learned very quickly that he needed gloves and a lot of padding. Parkour in Wild was nothing like the gym-based stunts. Once he had fractured his arms in the landing. May had some weird portable scanner that could just use like an x-ray machine, and he didn't want to think about the repercussions about getting hit with radiation like that, but at least he knew his fracture could be nursed carefully. By the time May and Izuku were in middle school, Izuku had been helping the underground heroes with analyzations for about 3 years. He had also started patrolling when he turned 12 last year. He kept in the shadows, only springing into action when absolutely necessary. No one saw him or heard of him. They were incapacitated, and anonymous tips that sent to the police or the heroes, reporting the lines for them to be picked up. The victims on the crime scene never identified who their savior was either. Izuku didn't deserve the credit for his actions, so he didn't stay to claim it. He didn't even if he did deserve it. What he was doing was technically illegal. He wasn't sure when doesn't technically to patrol himself. He had led into activities seeing from people hurting people. He also was here and coming up vigilante. He enjoyed every second of it. When he went out, he wore dark grays and blacks, bleeding into the darkness. He always wore lots of padding and a face mask. A few months ago, May had spray painted the kanji for Kyoshi on his bat, which seemed like a cool idea, and it turned out awesome. Of course, no one saw it. May was the only one who knew his analyst persona, so she didn't question the kanji. She just made it look amazing, and Izuku promised that if he ever got caught on camera, he'd show off the bat, and the promise was sort of empty, since they both knew he was seen, but likely not on purpose. School was boring as always. Kids picked on him. It was always the same, it had already started since wearing the mask. Katsuki didn't use his quirk on Izuku. He actively protected Izuku from other kids' physical. Of course, Izuku never spoke on it to him. No one did. Not even the teachers spoke to him in middle school. He was the stinky, quirkless kid. Quirkless Deku to them. That was it. It was hard. He got hand gestures or grunts. Nothing else. Or on rare occasions, sometimes he might get the usual. It was usually insults or a shout. But at least he wasn't coming home covered in bruises and cuts. Well, not from school anyways. Izuku had taken up some more dangerous martial arts classes at the gym. Now he was paying for lessons since some funds he saved up, and Eraserhead would send him payments for his analyzation work once in a while, if he led to a big break or arrest. It was under the table, of course, and Izuku knew Eraserhead was paying him out of his own pocket, but thankful for it regardless. Inko was getting more and more distant, and Izuku wondered sometimes if she was even in the house. But mornings, oatmeal, and a small dinner would always be placed on the table. Every day. It wasn't much, but Izuku's vibes. They never spoke. They barely even saw each other. Maybe a few times a week since the Sashi left. The extreme violence stopped, and now Inko was just resenting him in silence and ignored his existence altogether. In all, Izuku was at peace in his own life. Even though he was lonely, he had May. He could go patrolling every night. He could get out of the apartment and away from the stuffy, angry aura Inko filled the whole place with. At some point, Izuku realized he could just leave, and she'd not likely notice until she found his uneaten meals, and would probably not even notice much later until then. Even then. So, that's exactly what he did. He didn't even leave a note. He packed a few things, set the clothes he owned, his tech from May along with his patrol suit and his laptop and notebooks. At the age of 14, Izuku left home with no intention of returning. Inko would never file a missing persons report, and Izuku would know in a few weeks he'd likely find his apartment up for sale if he was gone. Inko would have nothing to do to try and finding him. She hated it anyways, so why would she say? He managed to find a small apartment just a few blocks away from school that accepted students who lived on their own. It was ran by a local charity that didn't with they took him in with not much hassle. Of course, he had to use his fake parents' signature forms the next day after sleeping at a park bench. It still worked. The last payment from Eraserhead got him 6 months in the apartment rent. It was one room with a small kitchen and bathroom. It fit a small table and functioned easily, and futon easily. That was about it. That was enough for Izuku. Thank you for listening. Hopefully next one on next week Wednesday. Have a great day. Lovelies. Yeah. Be a person. Or not. Yeah. People. Maybe.